The morning of my surgery, I handed my sister Amanda the keys to my apartment along with the power of attorney documents my lawyer had prepared. "Are you sure about this, Maya?" she asked, though I could see the eagerness in her eyes. "Giving me full authority over your finances while you're recovering?" "It's just temporary," I said, adjusting my hospital gown. "The surgery should be routine, but Dr. Patterson said I'll need at least 6 weeks of recovery time. I trust you to handle things while I'm out of commission." Amanda nodded solemnly. "Of course. I'll take care of everything, pay your bills, check your mail, water your plants. You don't need to worry about anything." What I didn't tell her was that the modest apartment she'd always teased me about was actually worth $2.3 million, fully paid off, and that my simple lifestyle was a deliberate choice rather than a financial necessity. As the founder and owner of Pacific Financial Group, a mortgage and lending company I'd built over the past 8 years, my net worth was somewhere north of $180 million. But Amanda had always seen me as her struggling younger sister who worked in some boring finance job and lived way below her potential. She'd married well, her husband Derek was a successful orthodontist, and they lived in what she considered the lifestyle our family deserved. Meanwhile, I lived in a converted warehouse loft downtown, drove a reliable Toyota, and rarely talked about my work beyond saying I was in lending. The surgery went well, but complications during recovery meant I was unconscious longer than expected. What should have been a 2-day hospital stay stretched into a week, with another week of heavy medication that left me barely aware of my surroundings. It was on day 14 when I was finally alert enough to check my phone that I saw Amanda's text message. "Thanks for the down payment on my new house." Face blowing a kiss. Confused, I scrolled up to see what I had missed during my medicated haze. There were dozens of messages from Amanda over the past 2 weeks. "Maya, your apartment is way too big for just you. Derek and I found the perfect house in Westfield Hills. The realtor says your place could sell quickly if we price it right. I know you'd want to help family. The house we want is $850,000. Your apartment should cover most of it. Sign the papers today. You're going to love what I picked out for you, a cute little studio closer to work." My blood ran cold as I continued reading. She had actually sold my apartment. While I was unconscious in the hospital, she had liquidated my primary residence and used the money as a down payment on her dream house. With shaking hands, I called my property management company. "Miss Chin, thank goodness you're okay." My property manager, Janet, sounded relieved. "I tried to reach you multiple times about the sale. Your sister had power of attorney, so legally we had to proceed, but it seemed so sudden." "What exactly happened, Janet?" "Your sister listed the property for $2.1 million, actually below market value. It sold within 3 days to a cash buyer. After fees and commissions, the net was $1.97 million. Your sister took possession of the funds as your designated agent." I closed my eyes, trying to process the magnitude of what had happened. "And where am I supposed to live when I'm discharged?" "Your sister mentioned she'd found you a temporary place. A studio rental in the downtown area, month-to-month lease. She said you'd be more comfortable somewhere, more appropriate to your budget." After hanging up, I sat in my hospital bed staring at Amanda's cheerful text messages. She genuinely seemed to believe she'd done me a favor, downsizing my life to what she considered more realistic expectations while using my equity to upgrade her own lifestyle. I typed back a simple response: "Congratulations on your new house." Her reply came immediately: "I knew you'd understand. Derek and I are so excited. We close next week." The next morning, I called my assistant Maria from my hospital bed. "Maya, how are you feeling? We've all been so worried." "I'm better, thanks. Maria, I need you to pull up the Morrison account file." "Derek and Amanda Morrison? They applied for a mortgage last week. Large loan amount, $650,000 on a house in Westfield Hills." My heart sank further. Not only had Amanda sold my apartment, but she was borrowing additional money to buy an even more expensive house than I'd initially realized. "What's the status of their application?" "It's been approved and is scheduled to close tomorrow. They qualified based on Derek's dental practice income and the substantial down payment they provided. Very straightforward approval." "Maria, I need you to pull that loan approval immediately." There was silence on the other end. "Maya, what grounds do we have for pulling an approved loan?" Run the application through our enhanced fraud detection protocols. Check the source of their down payment funds. But we already verified. Maria stopped mid-sentence. Oh my God, Maya. The down payment came from a property sale. Your property. Your sister used money from your apartment sale as her down payment. That's correct. But that means she used your money to qualify for a loan from your company to buy herself a house. Maria's voice was incredulous. She literally stole from you to buy a house from a company you own. I want you to call their real estate agent this morning. Inform them that Pacific Financial Group is withdrawing the loan approval due to irregularities in the down payment documentation. Maya, are you sure? This is going to create a massive problem for them. If they can't close tomorrow, they could lose the house entirely. I looked out my hospital window at the city skyline, at the buildings and developments my company had helped finance over the years. Maria, my sister sold my home without my knowledge while I was unconscious in surgery, then used my money to buy herself a dream house. She never asked permission, never discussed it with me, and apparently never planned to pay me back or even acknowledge what she'd done beyond a thank you text. When you put it like that, make the call, Maria. And schedule a meeting with our legal team for when I'm discharged. I want to understand all of my options. By noon, my phone was ringing with calls from Amanda. Maya, something terrible has happened, she said when I finally answered. The mortgage company called off our loan. Derek is livid. We're supposed to close today and they're saying there are irregularities with our down payment. That's awful, Amanda. What kind of irregularities? They won't say. Just that they need to verify the source and legitimacy of our down payment funds. It's ridiculous. It's your money from your apartment sale. That does sound concerning. Maya, you need to call them and explain that you gave me permission to sell the apartment. Tell them the money is legitimate. I was quiet for a moment. Amanda, can I ask you something? Of course, anything. When you sold my apartment, what was your plan for paying me back? Silence. I continued, you used $1.97 million of my money as your down payment. When were you planning to repay that? Maya, come on. You know Derek and I would take care of you. We were going to let you live in our basement apartment rent-free. Your basement apartment. It's really nice. Separate entrance, full bathroom. Much more practical for someone in your situation. My situation? You know, single, working a basic job, no real assets. Maya, that apartment was way too much house for you. You were living beyond your means. I felt a cold fury building in my chest. Living beyond my means. Don't be upset. Derek and I are just being realistic about money. We have his practice, investments, our financial planning. We can make better use of that equity than you could. I see. So you sold my apartment, used my money to buy yourself a house, and your plan to repay me was to let me live in your basement. Don't say it like that. We're family. And it's not like you could have afforded to keep that place anyway. The property taxes alone were probably more than your monthly salary. That was the moment I decided Amanda needed to learn exactly who she was dealing with. You're right, Amanda. We are family. Which is why I'm going to help you understand the situation you've created. What do you mean? The mortgage company that declined your loan? That's Pacific Financial Group. Okay, so. I own Pacific Financial Group, Amanda. I founded it 8 years ago. It's my company. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. That's not possible, she finally whispered. You used my money to apply for a loan from my company to buy a house that you planned to let me pay for by living rent-free in your basement. Maya, you can't own a mortgage company. You work in some basic finance job. I work as the CEO and majority shareholder of a lending institution that originates over $400 million in mortgages annually. We have 847 employees across 6 states. Another long silence. But your apartment, your car, the way you live. I live modestly by choice, not necessity. My net worth is approximately $180 million. I could hear Derek in the background asking what was happening, Amanda's muffled voice trying to explain what couldn't be explained. Amanda, are you still there? Maya, if this is true, if you really own the mortgage company, can you fix this? Can you approve our loan? I almost laughed at her priorities. Even faced with the revelation that she'd stolen nearly $2 million from someone worth $180 million, her first concern was salvaging her house purchase. That's an interesting question, Amanda. Let me ask you one first. What exactly did you think was going to happen when I woke up and discovered you'd sold my home? I thought you'd be grateful. I was helping you right-size your life. By stealing my house and using the money to buy yourself a mansion. It wasn't stealing. You gave me power of attorney. For medical emergencies and bill paying, not for liquidating my assets to fund your lifestyle upgrades. Derek had apparently taken the phone. Maya, look, we can work this out. Amanda made some poor choices, but we're family. We can set up a payment plan. Derek, let me stop you right there. Your wife didn't make poor choices. She committed theft, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. The fact that we're related doesn't change the legal realities. You can't be serious about pressing charges against your own sister. I'm not talking about pressing charges, Derek. I'm talking about the natural consequences of Amanda's decisions. She sold my house without permission and used the money to qualify for a loan that she now can't get because the lender me is aware of the fraud. Amanda took the phone back. Maya, please. We'll lose the house. We'll lose our deposit, our inspection fees, everything. We might even get sued by the sellers for backing out. Those are the consequences of your choices, Amanda. But you can fix this. You own the mortgage company. Yes, I do. And as the owner, I have a responsibility to maintain ethical lending standards. I can't approve a fraudulent loan just because the applicant is my sister. Then what are we supposed to do? I'd been thinking about this question since my conversation with Maria. Here's what's going to happen, Amanda. You're going to return every penny of my money. Today. We can't. We already gave it to the sellers as a down payment. Then you're going to liquidate whatever assets you need to liquidate to get my money back. Sell Derek's boat. Sell your jewelry. Take a loan against his practice. I don't care how you do it, but I want $1.97 million returned to my account by end of business today. That's impossible. Then you're going to lose the house, lose your deposit, and probably face a lawsuit from the sellers. And I'm going to file a police report for theft and fraud. Derek's voice was back on the line. Maya, be reasonable. We don't have access to that kind of cash immediately. Give us time to figure this out. Derek, your wife had time to figure out how to steal from me while I was unconscious. She can figure out how to return what she stole just as quickly. What if we could come up with half by tonight and set up payments for the rest? I considered this. The full amount returned today or I file criminal charges tomorrow. Amanda was crying now. Maya, please. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. But destroying our lives won't get your money back any faster. Amanda, you destroyed your own lives when you decided to steal from me. I'm just declining to be an accomplice to fraud. But we're family. Yes, we are. Which makes what you did even worse. After hanging up, I called Maria again. How did the conversation go with their agent? Badly. They're threatening to sue Pacific Financial for breach of contract and damages. The sellers are furious, the real estate agents are scrambling, and Derek Morrison called me directly screaming about how we're destroying their family. Let them sue. Our legal team will have a field day with that one. What else? I've been thinking, Maya. Even if they return the money, what are you going to do about housing when you're discharged? I smiled for the first time in days. Maria, pull up the Riverside Tower listings. I've been looking at the penthouse unit. The $4.2 million penthouse? That's the one. Let's make an offer. Cash purchase, close in 2 weeks. Maya, are you sure? That's quite an upgrade from your warehouse loft. I've been living modestly for years. Partly out of habit and partly because I didn't want to deal with family assumptions about my lifestyle. But Amanda has made it clear that my family is going to make assumptions regardless of how I live. I might as well live in a way that makes me happy. Should I prepare financing? No, cash purchase. Let's liquidate some of the Microsoft stock. 2 hours later, my phone rang again. It was Amanda and she sounded defeated. Maya, we got the money. All of it. Derek borrowed against his practice and we liquidated our retirement accounts. There are tax penalties, but yes. All $1.97 million will be wired to your account within the hour. Good. Maya, I need you to know that I really did think I was helping you. I genuinely believed you were struggling financially and that I was making smart decisions for both of us. Amanda, in all the years you've known me, when have I ever asked you for financial help? She was quiet for a moment. Never. When have I ever seemed stressed about money or complained about not being able to afford things? You haven't. So what made you think I was struggling financially? Because you live so simply. Your apartment was nice but not fancy. Your car is old. You don't wear expensive clothes or jewelry. You never talk about your work like it's important. And it never occurred to you that those might be choices rather than limitations? No. It didn't. Amanda, I need you to understand something. What you did wasn't just theft. It was a complete violation of my trust and autonomy. You made major decisions about my life based on assumptions you never bothered to verify. I know. I'm so sorry. More than that, you were willing to take what you thought was everything I had to buy yourself luxuries. Even if I had been struggling financially, taking my only asset to fund your dream house would have been unconscionable. He was crying again. Maya, how do we fix this? How do we fix our relationship? I thought about that question seriously. I don't know if we can, Amanda. Trust isn't just about money. It's about respect, communication, and caring about someone else's well-being as much as your own. But I do care about you. You care about me the way you understand me, which apparently isn't very well. You've spent years dismissing my choices, assuming you know what's best for my life, and treating me like someone who needs to be managed rather than respected. I never meant to make you feel that way. Intent matters, Amanda, but impact matters more. And the impact of your choices has been devastating. Derek took the phone again. Maya, we've learned our lesson. We'll never make assumptions about your life again. Can we start rebuilding from here? Derek, you can start rebuilding by treating me like an adult who is capable of making her own decisions about her own life. That includes asking before assuming, listening before judging, and respecting my choices even when you don't understand them. We can do that. We'll see. 3 weeks later, I was settled into my new penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows and panoramic city views. My doctor had cleared me for normal activities and I was back to running Pacific Financial Group from my home office. Amanda had texted a few times asking if we could meet for coffee or lunch. I hadn't responded yet. I wasn't ready. The doorbell rang and I was surprised to see Derek standing in my lobby via the security monitor. Maya, could we talk? Just for a few minutes. I buzzed him up, curious about what he wanted to say. When the elevator doors opened into my penthouse foyer, his jaw dropped. Jesus, Maya. This place is incredible. Thank you. What did you want to talk about? He walked to the windows overlooking the city. I wanted to apologize. Not just for Amanda's actions, but for my own assumptions about you. Okay. I've spent the last 3 weeks thinking about this situation and I realized something. Amanda didn't act alone. I was part of the decision-making process. I knew she was selling your apartment, and I never questioned whether it was appropriate. Why didn't you question it? Because I assumed you needed the help. I assumed Amanda was the successful sister who was taking care of the struggling sister. I never considered that I might have it backward. I nodded. That's honest. Maya, can I ask you something? When you were building your company, getting successful, becoming wealthy, did you ever want to tell us? Did you want to share those achievements with family? I thought about his question. Yes, many times. But every conversation about my work got redirected or dismissed. Amanda would change the subject to Derek's practice or her volunteer work. My parents would ask when I was going to find a real career, or get married. Eventually, I stopped trying to explain what I was building. We made you feel like your success didn't matter to us. You made me feel like my success didn't exist to you. Derek sat down heavily in one of my chairs. We were so convinced we were the successful ones that we never considered we might be wrong. Success isn't a competition, Derek. There was room for all of us to be successful in different ways. But instead we made it a hierarchy and we put ourselves at the top without ever asking where you actually belonged in it. Yes. Maya, Amanda is devastated. Not just about the money or the house, but about realizing how badly she misunderstood you. How badly we all did. I can imagine. Is there any way forward for our family? Any way to rebuild this relationship? I looked out at the city, at the skyline that included buildings financed through my company, investments that had grown from my understanding of markets and risk and opportunity. Derek, I don't know. What Amanda did was a profound violation of trust. But more than that, it revealed years of assumptions, dismissiveness, and disrespect that I hadn't fully acknowledged even to myself. We want to do better. Wanting to do better and actually doing better are different things. What would it take? What would we need to do to earn back your trust? Start by getting to know who I actually am instead of who you assumed I was. Ask questions about my work, my interests, my goals. Listen to the answers. Treat me like someone whose opinions and choices matter. We can do that. Can you? Because it's going to require acknowledging that the sister you thought you knew was largely a fiction you created. The real me is someone who built a multi-million-dollar company, who makes complex financial decisions every day, who has been successful on her own terms for years. Derek nodded slowly. That's going to take some adjustment. For all of us. I'll have to learn to trust you with the real me instead of hiding behind the version you expected to see. Maya, would you be willing to have dinner with us? Just to start talking? I considered his request. The anger was still there, but underneath it was something else. A longing for family connection that I hadn't realized I'd been suppressing. One dinner. But Derek, I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person who went into surgery 3 weeks ago. What happened changed me. I'm not going to hide my success or downplay my achievements to make other people comfortable anymore. Good. We need to see the real you. Even if the real me makes you uncomfortable sometimes. Especially then. After Derek left, I stood at my windows watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and orange. Tomorrow I'd go back to running my company, making decisions that affected hundreds of employees and millions of dollars in lending. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope that maybe, eventually, I could have both success and family, without having to choose between them or hide one to preserve the other. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Derek said you might be willing to have dinner with us. Maya, I know I have a lot to learn about who you really are. I'm ready to listen. I typed back. Saturday, 7 p.m. the Metropolitan. And Amanda? Come prepared to meet your sister for the first time.